Transit. How's it going? Hi. Well, I am so glad to be here. My name is Lauren, if we haven't met yet. And real quick, I just wanted to say that if you really knew me, you would know that one of the reasons why I dislike Thanksgiving is because I can't stand turkeys. I really don't like birds of any kind, actually, except the really cute fabric birds from Target that they sell in like the Christmas section. Oddly collect those, but any other bird, not interested in. Probably because when I was a kid, my grandma had this bird named Eddie that would get out of its cage and just like chase you around the house, which was pretty traumatizing, turns out, because now whenever I see a bird, I just assume they're gonna fly for my head. So turkeys, out of all the birds, to me, are some of the scariest because they're really large. Like, they are massive birds. And I don't know if you know this, but they can run at 25 miles per hour, which is a 2-minute and 24-second mile, which is faster than the current record holder that's a human. So that's something. They can also fly at 55 miles per hour, which is just too fast, in my opinion, for a bird that size and looks the way it does. And something really interesting to me about turkeys, which does make them pretty terrifying. I promise I'm not going to talk about turkeys the whole time, although it's tempting and I could. They get really focused on what they're doing. So, you know how, like, if you're in the backyard with your dog, I have a very, very sweet golden retriever, and if we're outside and she starts chasing someone, if she sees a squirrel or a tennis ball, she's gone, on to the next thing. You know, they don't really keep their focus for a long time. Turkeys are not like that. They have their eyes set on something, they go after it, and that is their focus and their mission. And if you don't believe me, look at this video. This is terrifying. In itself, it's scary. I mean, just think about, you're just walking around, and then all of a sudden, they're focused on you. What even is, like, look at that. Do you see that one? I mean, just imagine you're just chilling at the Halcyon and this just pops up. I don't know. I just keep going back to the Halcyon. That video was 30 seconds. It went on for like 7 minutes. These turkeys were just so focused in on the person in the back of the truck, and they just chased him. So anyway, that's all I have to say about turkeys. Speaking of Thanksgiving, how was everyone's Thanksgiving? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in between. Okay. Yeah, I would probably be about right here too. I hope y'all had a good break. I don't know about you, but this last week just felt really fast. Does it ever feel like that to you? Like, you get a holiday break, you're like waiting and waiting and waiting for your holiday break, and then you're on your break and it's over in a blink of an eye. Before you know it, you're back at school. Really, this whole like time of year just goes by so fast. I mean, before you know it, we're gonna be at Christmas. Before you know, it's gonna be 2022, which doesn't even feel real. These next few weeks just go by really, really, really fast. And if I'm being honest with you, sometimes most of the time, when I get into these really busy seasons of life, I get so like focused on what's next that I am not present in the here and the now. I don't know if you ever feel that way, but sometimes my brain just keeps moving onto what's next, what do I need to do next, that I miss out on what's happening right now. And when I'm in a really busy season and I'm just trying to go to the next thing, something that, and I'm not proud of this, but something for me that gets pushed to the back burner in my life is time spent with God. I look at my schedule for the next day and I think, oh gosh, God will understand. I don't have time. And then I do that for a few days in a row, and then before I know it, it's been a couple weeks, and I haven't spent any time with God because I've just been moving and moving and moving to the next thing. Which is really unfortunate because, I don't know if you feel this, but when I'm in my busy seasons, when life just feels a little crazy, what I need most is time with God. That's what I need most, are those moments with God that kind of center me, that remind me that he's present in my life and he's there, but I just keep moving and I keep going, and I just miss out on what God is doing in my life. And when we move so fast, when we get stuck in these busy seasons and we're so focused on what's next, we're not looking around. And then when we come up for air out of that busy season, we start to wonder, where's God? And we start to feel like God's not present in our lives. Like God's not showing up for me. God's not around. He must have left. He must be busy too. He's got a lot going on. He just must have forgotten about me. And really, that's not true at all. We know this, that God is always present, that God wants to spend time with us. He loves spending time with us. It's us that's not showing up because we just get so busy. And especially as we get further removed from big weekends like sixth grade camp or frequency, where hopefully you experienced a lot of growth in your relationship with God and you felt so close to him, the further we get away from those weekends and the more we get into these busy seasons where we don't prioritize our relationship with him, we feel so distant. And it can cause us to wonder, where's the God that I was with in October at frequency? Where's the God that I experienced at sixth grade camp in August? Where is he? When really, it's us who have moved away, who haven't prioritized our time and our relationship with him. You see, when life is moving fast, we forget to slow down and notice what God is doing. And God is still going to work in your life. But in a few months, in a little while, when this busy season slows down, we look back and we think, gosh, I didn't spend any time with God. I didn't grow in my relationship at all with him, and I was moving so fast, I don't even know what happened. And so today I want to talk about a story in the Old Testament in a book called Joshua about a guy named, any guesses? Close. Joshua. It's about a guy named Joshua who was leading the Israelites out of Egypt into the Promised Land, and with them, they were carrying what's called the Ark of the Covenant, which looked like this, very fancy. And in the Ark of the Covenant were the 10 Commandments. So this was very, very important to them that it got to the Promised Land with them. Now, however, to get into the Promised Land, they were going to have to cross the Jordan River, which is a pretty big river normally, but this was harvest season at the time, and so the river had flooded. And so a normally large river is now flooded, and they have a ton of people and the Ark of the Covenant that needs to get across this river. So Joshua is kind of worried about how this is going to play out, which rightfully so. And the Lord says to Joshua, hey, when you get to this river, send a few people up ahead and have them stand in it. And Joshua's like, oh, okay. So they get to the Jordan River. He sends a few people ahead of him. They stand just in the shallow end of the Jordan, and the river stops flowing. And not only does it stop flowing, the water starts to pull back, and it reveals dry ground. It doesn't just drain the river a little bit. No, God takes the water, pushes it to the side, and they were all of them, which again, this is a ton of people, were able to cross on dry ground. And in this moment, Joshua does something that I think is so important and such a good leadership call on his part, but I think it's something that we can learn about even today or learn from. And this is what happens in Joshua chapter 4, verse 4. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had chosen, one from each of the tribes of Israel. So all the Israelites, there are 12 tribes, and he had one person kind of representing each tribe. He told them, go into the middle of the Jordan in front of the ark of the Lord your God, so on dry land. Each of you must pick up one stone and carry it out on your shoulder, 12 stones in all, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. We will use these stones to build a memorial. In the future, your children will ask you, what do these stones mean? Then you can tell them, they remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the ark of the Lord's covenant went across. These stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever. So in this moment, the water pulls back, reveals dry ground. They're all able to cross. Joshua knew this is a moment to remember. This is a big deal because God was faithful. He took care of his people. He showed up. He performed a miracle for us. And I think Joshua knew that as humans, time would go by, months would go by, years would go by, and they would forget. even something as grand as water stopping and pushing back, over time you would just forget how big of a deal that was. And Joshua didn't want that to happen. Not for the people who were actually there that day and not for generations to come. Joshua knew it was that important to remember. So they get to the promised land and they build a memorial of these stones. And for years, for generations to come, the story is told about God's provision over their lives, God's faithfulness to them, and God's goodness. And you see, I think Joshua knew that our faith gets stronger when we remember what God has done. But in order to remember what God has done, we have to pause and pay attention to him. We have to pay attention to what's going on in our lives. We have to take time to pause and to reflect and to be present in the here and the now. And that's something I'm still learning. I mean, Thanksgiving just happened, and I'm already thinking about Christmas. I've moved on to what is Christmas going to look like? What's that holiday going to look like? What's that time with my family going to look like? What all do I need to do? And I haven't even taken time to pause and reflect on the last week. We just keep moving on. And maybe you think back to a camp that you had and you know it was a big deal and you know you grew a lot in your relationship with God, but you don't remember everything that happened because time has passed. And so what would it look like if we decided we're going to take time every day to actually pause and to reflect and to try to pay attention to notice how God is using our lives, how God is showing up in our lives right now. And so I'm going to give you two things to do. One, you're going to do on your own time, if you would like. And the other you're going to do right now, today. The first idea that I have, and this is something that I want to do because I also think I just need to take time to pause and reflect and pay attention to God more, is in the month of December, starting December 1st, which is Wednesday, I would love for all of us to take time, at least sometime every single day in December, and start a list, whether it's in your phone or in a journal, and just write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for, or 3 ways you saw God show up in your day. And they can be totally normal things. You had a great conversation with your mom on the way home from school. You got to hang out with a sibling and y'all didn't fight once. You remembered everything you need to remember on a test. Like whatever these little moments through your day are that either you saw God show up or you're just super grateful for, I want us to, especially in December, in the busiest month of the year, take time to write these down so we can remember them. Another way that I think God really shows up in our lives is through people, through the people around us. God's provided each of us with a community, with a family, with great friends. There's people in our lives who God is working through for us. And what's really cool is he's probably working through you or has worked through you for someone else before. But again, we move so fast that we don't even take time to look around and notice how other people have served us, how other people have helped us, and then we don't ever take the time to thank them. And so we're going to give you time today to write a note to someone, write a thank you note to someone. And this isn't just a, hey, thanks for being nice to me, love you, bye. Like an actual letter, note to someone who has really helped you lately, who has really shown up for you, or just someone you want to acknowledge. Maybe it's a parent and y'all had a ton of family over last week. And that takes a toll on your parents, and it's a lot for them to deal with that and to clean up and to be these guests and to also be kind and gracious throughout the whole week. And maybe you just want to acknowledge that and thank them for that. Or maybe it's a teacher who's really helped you catch up on homework or helped you increase your grade in a class. Or maybe there's a friend who reached out and just really made you feel special. Whoever it is, whoever comes to mind, I want us to take some time and actually write them a letter thanking them for how they showed up in your life. So you're going to stay right where you are, and we have some staff and some coaches who are going to walk around and hand out note cards and pens and take as much time as you would like. We have plenty of time in here, so don't feel rushed. And then you're just going to get to hang out with each other for a little bit afterwards. And when those doors over there open, then you are free to leave. But until that, we're just going to hang out in here. Okay?